Hello everybody and welcome to Find Your Balance. My name is Mary-Louise McCready and I'm a head therapist from Staff Support and Counselling Service. So today is to be able to tell you a little bit about balance, what that means to each other, and I aim to do that using the emotion regulation and compassion. So let's think about compassion for a moment. Do you think as humans we can learn to be compassionate? Is compassionate already in with us? Yes, we can. We as humans find compassion all the time. What we aren't so wonderful at doing is being compassionate to ourselves. We're always able to reach out to somebody and offer them compassion and empathy and sympathy. But when it turns to talking about yourself or judging yourself, you tend to be more critical and less self-compassionate. So what am I talking about with balance here? What I'm talking about is finding some balance in the melee of all our lives. What I'm talking about is time to adjust those three systems and to give ourselves a break. So when I started, I was talking about the emotional regulation system, and we have three types of emotion regulation systems. An experience that we have in our lives can cause unbalance between these three systems. For instance, if something bad happens, we feel it emotionally, physically and psychologically, and that can sometimes leave an imprint on ourselves, and it sometimes can lead to us judging other things that may go the same way, and it leaves us oversensitized to distress, and that starts your fears and anxieties, self-critical about things you may or may not have done so well, and deep shame about things we have done. Usually it's about things we have had very little control about, and although we can switch between these systems to manage our emotions, most psychological difficulties are caused by the overuse of the threat and drive system and the underuse of the soothing systems. And the soothing system manages both actual and perceived threats. So in the model, this is what you as your emotion regulation system looks like. So when we're talking about the driven, it can be excited, it can be vitality, it can be incentive and resource focused, and it could be wanting, pursuing, achieving, consuming. It's a very activating system, which you can see this can be useful when you're doing things such as getting ready to hand presentations in for university, getting ready for big meetings. So you're very driven, you're very focused on the end task. But imagine what that would be like if that was a light all the time. The next system that can be in play is your threat focused system, and that can be the one that makes you avoid stuff. If your threat system is overstimulated, it can be activated at any time through a perceived or real threat, and it can be really inhibiting. So the self-soothing system, the one, the content, safe, connected one on your right hand side, that's the one that's not driven or not seeking to find something. It's not affirmative focused, and it's safeness and it's kindness, and as the word says, it's very soothing. So that's a place where there's no threat and there's no drive into play. They'll still be there, but they're not being overused. So the emotion regulation system is rather like your PC. We also have this, if you imagine it as your inner operating system, it helps deal with complexities. Emotion regulation systems are conscious and unconscious strategies that can affect our emotions, moods and feelings, but these help us process stimulus and experience. And as we've just mentioned, there are three different systems at play: the threat, the drive and the soothing. Again, all three systems are needed. We can't have too much of one, not enough of the other. They have to be in a balance. If one system is dominating, then our emotions can get off kilter. So if you can imagine, if you're driven all the time, that as I'm beginning to talk about it, you've noticed my breath comes up in my chest because I'm focused on the end goal. I'm not focused on the steps, I'm focused on the end. So that seems quite anxiety provoking to me. If I'm in threat all the time, I may be hiding, I might be avoiding things, I may have an overuse of my startle response, which doesn't seem like a very nice place to be at all the time. Same if your soothing system is over at play, that can make us quite still, which is okay to be there, but imagine you need to get something done. Our threat system is inward, it's our primeval brain. It was originally designed to protect us from predators, those very real threats to our lives. When this system is activated, it initiates our flight, flight, freeze response, which of course are crucial to our survival. But as we have evolved, our brain has evolved with us, but it hasn't evolved enough to know if it's a real threat or it's a perceived threat. So something as simple as having to have those difficult conversations, those tense conversations sometimes, that can activate your threat response. And it can sometimes hijack our minds and make us think a bit irrational at the same time. So think of this way. If you're driving to somewhere in heavy traffic and somebody cuts you up, jeopardizing your safety. So this is a real threat. You're likely to experience fear and anxiety at that point, but possibly followed by anger. This action was a very real threat to your safety. Conversely, something as a disagreement with your spouse, which is generally not life-threatening, can stir up the similar feelings. So fear, anxiety, and perhaps anger. So your drive system, it's centered on your doing and your acquiring. Again, the drive system is needed. It pushes us to gain things such as food, shelter, safety, sexual partners, relationships. However, in today's world, this system seems to have been stretched beyond those basic human needs, and it's included desires such as money, materials, possessions, and entertainment. So such and such a body is going to Mauritius for 2 weeks. I must work extra shifts so I can go for 3 weeks and go all inclusive, because there seems to be that one betterism in attaining things. This can also be, you can also see this a lot in people work as well. They have to go one better. However, when we achieve or acquire these things, our brain is fantastic. It gives us our own reward system, and it releases your neurotransmitters, and it releases dopamines, which reinforces that desire. It's a bit like an addiction. That made me feel good for this amount of time, so I need more. I need more shoes, I need more holidays, I need a better job, I need to be addressed better. So when this drive is overused or it's prevalent more of the time, it leads us to set the unrealistic goals. But when we don't quite reach them, it makes us vulnerable, and it leads to emotions such as depression and anxiety because we haven't achieved this massive thing or even a small thing, but we believe that that will make us this person. Soothing is very useful, obviously. It helps us cultivate our inner calmness and sense of well-being. When our soothing system is activating, the threat and drive systems are deactivated, so you sort of put a blanket over those two, so they get a little bit fluffy and a little bit quieter. And when it's operating efficiently, endorphins are produced, and the brain creates that feeling of calm and safety and peacefulness. So it's especially important for infants to have the strong, dependable bond and relationship with the primary caregiver. So, you know, this is why you keep everything quiet for the child. It's dark, there's no loud noises, there's lots of touch. and they haven't got that drive system that's activated to get stuff. They've got the drive system to get food and to get warm and to get nappies changed. So that's a very realistic, that's very primeval stuff that we need. Without a strong without a strong soothing system, it's hard to self-regulate negative emotions such as anxiety and anger. So if you imagine your drive and your threat systems are at play a lot of the times and your soothing system is down below, it's quite difficult to achieve that balance. Soothing is also the ability to accept our emotions, look at them objectively, be able to self-calm, let them pass, and then we've got that real balance between that threat. So it's about looking, is that threat real? Is it perceived? It's not a new concept. Finding balance is not new, and our tricky brains or our sticky brains or our primeval brains can learn to and adapt to new ways. How? One way to do this is by using compassion focused therapy. It's something that I touched on at the beginning when I started talking. You know, we're all very compassionate to other people. What we aren't is compassionate to ourselves. So what are the attributes of compassion? In other words, what do we need to have compassion? So we need, in the interim, in the circle that surrounds us, we need to be sensitive. We need to be sympathy. We need to care for well-being. We need to be able to tolerate that distress. So when I was talking about those threats, is it a perceived threat? Is it something I can use to calm myself down? It means to be non-judgmental, and you need to have empathy. Non-judgmental or non-judgment is a really useful tool to have, because then you can look rationally at those feelings and those emotions and not attach those emotions to them. So for instance, I've got to talk to my boss tomorrow. I don't know what to say. I don't know if I'm in trouble. I don't know what I've done. And you'll start checking your work to see what you've done. If I am in trouble, that means I'm really bad at my job. So it will always come with that absolute I am statement after. So what to the skills do we need? We need to be able to think. We need to have that imagery. We need to have that reasoning. We need to display or employ that behaviour that we need to be compassionate. We need to be able to feel and sense stuff. And encompassing all that is warmth. So we need care for well-being, not just for other people, for ourselves, primarily ourselves. How many times have you heard, I don't feel okay, so I can't be okay for others? We need to show sensitivity and sympathy and that distress tolerance I was talking about. It needs to be empathetic and not judgmental. So for what purpose? Well, we need to target ourselves for well-being. How? Who are you not taking care of? Usually ourselves. You'll find this time and time again. Are you fitting in your me time when everything else is done? So for instance, I've got 5 minutes at the end of the day. I'll perhaps put a face pack on. It should be part of your routine. It shouldn't be something that when everybody else's needs are met, then you meet yours. Try to put something in every day. To whom? Who to be sensitive to? Again, yourself firstly. To others. This means sometimes it is to place the other person is in rather than reaction to you. So it's what is you're being met with. So what places the other person is. Are they having a bad time? Are they throwing their stuff at you? So it's not about you as a person. It's not because you're not a good friend or not a good co-worker. It's because of the place they are in. So you need to be sensitive to where other people are. Are you using that sympathy for yourselves, and can others recognise it? Recognition can be the first step to understanding to what that sympathy means. Distress tolerance. Are you one of those people always kick yourself when something's not gone well? Are you that person who most of it's gone well, but a little tiny thing's gone wrong or not gone to plan? And it's that bit that you focus on. It's that 1%, as when you stumbled over your words when you were giving a presentation. Did you say the wrong word? Did you gulp? Did you cough? And it's that bit that you absolutely concentrate, and that bit that will replay in your head. Everybody would have noticed that. Everybody knows I don't know what I'm talking about. Again, see what happens straight away. Those judgy thoughts come in. This must mean I am. And remember the very absolute. When you're able to tolerate that distress, it will be uncomfortable, don't get me wrong, but once we accept that situations are not always fantastic and things don't always go to plan, we are able to become more balanced, because what happens is your soothing system gets activated and it starts blanketing that threat system. Empathy. Empathy is a really wide scale. When we are empathetic, just think of the difference between empathy and sympathy. You can sympathise with somebody's position, but when you empathise with somebody's position, we can feel the pain. We don't necessarily have to have been in their pain or been in a situation the same as it, but we can feel their pain, but then we take action. This is what we need to do for ourselves as well, to become more empathetic towards ourselves. As a general rule, people who want or need your empathy don't just need you to stop and listen. They need you to understand and sympathise with what you are going through, and crucially either take or seek to take action to resolve the problem, which is compassionate empathy. So that's not always leaping in to save people. That's not always, okay, Mrs. Brown, you haven't been able to complete all that work you're supposed to have done today. Let me do it for you. It's about enabling that other person. It's about empowering that other person. Okay, I know how to do that. Let me show you how I do it. And that make a difference for you. It's not about rescuing people. It's about empowering them, but it's about doing a something. Non-judgmental. Again, let's turn this back on ourselves. Listen to yourself. Listen to the words that you use to yourselves. What are you telling yourself you did wrong? What are you criticising you for? What's that critical voice saying to you? What comparisons are you making? So, for instance, well, such and such a body house is always clean. The children are always nice. They're always turning up on time, whereas I'm running up the road with my handbag over my head, still wearing my nightdress. They can do it, why can't I? And that leads to that very critical voice kicking in. Nag, 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 nag. If it was a bird that you bought from a shop and that bird didn't shut up and it was screeching all day and all night, firstly, you will put a blanket over it to try and keep it quiet. And when it still didn't keep quiet, you would take it back to the shop and say, we're not getting on with this bird, it won't shut up. Your critical voice can go over and over and over. And what it will also do is it'll find evidence from the past. Maybe, you know, you fell over in the school playground in 1994 and everybody laughed at you. So therefore I must never fall over again. And then you put it in today, and then you put it in the future as well. So you're talking about past, present and future, and you're making those judgments on yourselves that if it doesn't go 100% right, if I don't say all the words right, then everything's gone wrong. That's a critical bit. I love this quote. A day spent judging another is a painful day, and a day spent judging yourself is a really painful day. So what does compassionate you look like? So you would have wisdom, strength, You'll be warm and non-judgmental. If you think about that circle that we saw earlier, imagine what those would look like. So when I was talking earlier, when we used imagery, what would they look like? What would they sound like? And what would they feel like? If possible, we'll begin by focusing on your breathing. So finding that calming rhythm. So at this point, I would ask you to check your breathing. So let's take a moment to do that. Make sure you're sitting comfortably on your chair and you're not leaning forward like I was just. Are you breathing from the top of your chest, making those short breaths? Are you breathing from your side? What you really need to do is breathe from your belly and bring that breath through. So do that really big breath in and bring it in, and then push it out a little bit and feel yourself relax. The reason that I ask you to do this first is it sort of dulls down the other systems like we were talking about earlier. It will start that self-soothing system up, and that clears your head a little bit so you can really think about the compassionate you. So sometimes it's difficult to think about what the compassionate you might look like. We may sometimes think, well, I know such and such a body and they're really compassionate. Perhaps I need to take some of their attributes on. Or sometimes we can't think at all and we just don't know what it looks like. So this is where I would invite you to build your own image. So what would they look like? Would they be young? Would they be old? Would they be male? Would they be female? Or they don't have to be human at all. They could be a big fluffy wolf or a fluffy kitten. Would your image have gone through the same things as you? Had the same life experiences as you? Or be understanding about them? Would they be like a friend or part of the team? The one that welcomes you in, the one that you belong to. What colours and sounds are associated with the qualities of wisdom, strength, warmth and non-judgment? Suppose when I think about compassionate and non-judgment and wisdom and strength, I always think it always sort of brings to my mind imageries of soft music, perhaps gentle breeze. So I've got the gentle breeze on my face, sort of half smiling, not a great big grin, but a sort of half smile. And the person who you know is listening to you, they may not say anything, but you know they're listening. Remember, your image brings full compassion to you and for you. So how to practice compassion? Let's start small. It's not about building that image straight away. It's not about being compassionate straight away. It's about taking very, very small steps. So firstly, bring your awareness to your experience or your experiences and look at that experience. Try and do it without the judgment, without those critical voices, without those I shoulda, coulda, woulda, the I ams, this must mean, those sort of unanswerable questions that we ask ourselves and expect answers to. Get curious about them. When those thoughts are whirring, interrupt them, refocus them. What are the exceptions to this? Was this all my responsibility? Was this all within my control? Focus on some self-compassionate statements. Sometimes that's difficult, so write them down. Write a letter to yourselves. Write a letter to whoever you want. And remember, we are not alone. So what does this all mean? We as humans are our worst critics. We can kick ourselves at the drop of a hat. We don't need any other people to criticise us because we can do it ourselves quite well. We're quite adept at it. Practice compassion to yourselves and kindness to yourselves. Now, this may be uncomfortable at first, but keep persevering. So I know this has been a little bit of a whistle-stop tour today. And I want to refocus on the last slide when we said, remember, you're not alone. Remember, staff support and counselling are here for those one-to-one sessions, for those wellbeing sessions. So it would be really good if you could find the time to talk to us, or, join one of our wellbeing sessions. Everybody's always welcome. So all that remains for me to say today is thank you so much for listening to me. I hope you found something useful for your toolbox, and I hope you find that compassionate self. I hope you find that self-soothing self and really look at those dry systems. Thank you again.